The Cleveland Cavaliers select Evan Mobley.
Has been a historical franchise in this league for years.
We have a trade to announce. The Boston Celtics select Jason Tatum.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Earlier today, we talked about a lot of different players that could be on the move, some players on the trade market. We talked about De'Aaron Fox, we talked about Harrison Barnes, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley. We talked quite a bit about Jakob Poeltl as well, the Toronto Raptors, some moves they can look to make. The Blazers, what's going on with Norman Powell. Now we're going to get into some other players that could be on the move here. I think the place we need to go now is the Dallas Mavericks. And the Mavs are potentially a landing spot for now both Myles Turner and John Collins. Clearly they're thinking big. The Mavs kind of in the middle of the pack in the Western Conference, but with one trade, they could push themselves up potentially into another tier if they can really get things running. But it's not going to be easy. There's going to be some specific contracts they have to move. So look, I guess let's start with Myles Turner. Keith, there's been a lot of buzz around Myles Turner and the Mavs. There's been this link for a few seasons now. Do you think he's a good fit there? I mean, I guess you would just have all the arms if you put Porzingis and Turner on the floor together.
Yeah, I worry how you're going to rebound.
Yes.
Because those two guys, despite their size, are notoriously poor rebounders. But you do have to factor in, you get a lot of rebounding out of Luka in that position. Maybe you're able to keep somebody else around that can, hit the glass. I think you would really want a third big. That's kind of more of a rugged option in there that you can kind of throw in there. But as Mark Stein noted, and guys, subscribe to his newsletter. He's got all kind of good stuff in there, and it's free on once a week, and that's where he drops all the good trade tidbit stuff. He noted that they're in on both Turner and it's slipping my mind.
John Collins.
John Collins. So it kind of makes some sense, right? I guess. I clearly think Collins is the far superior player. I think he's just a much better player than Myles Turner is.
That's fair.
But I think I get it for Dallas. If you're looking to, all right, what do we need to pair next to Porzingis? Well, it's a guy who can really rebound, which that would be Collins, or someone who can protect him a little bit with some shot blocks, and that would be Turner.
Right.
Turner used to playing with another big. Now Porzingis different big from Sabonis, of course, because he's more perimeter based, where Sabonis does a lot of his work inside. But I get it. As you mentioned, though, there are some challenges. Teams are super interested in Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson, who are both pending free agents after the season. The challenge is Brunson makes $1.8 million and Finney-Smith makes $4 million. So they're not getting you anything as far as salary matching in a trade. So that means, as Stein kind of posited, Tim Hardaway Jr. probably has to be involved in a deal. And Tim Hardaway Jr. is on the first year of a 4-year, $75 million contract at $21.3 million. But he has played really poorly this year. He's shooting, I think, under 40% overall. His 3-point percentage has dropped off. So that's been kind of rough. The other guy I think that you could throw in there would be Dwight Powell at $11.1 million. You could move him and kind of say, hey, where do we want to go with this? But Mavs are, I get the sense that the fact that they've played better recently probably has changed some of their trade math a little bit of, hey, we've pushed up the standings now. They are, they're fifth. They're only a game and a half clear of the Lakers, so it's not like they're that great, in position to definitely stay in there. And they're probably not getting up to fourth by any means, unless the Jazz have just decided they're done winning games altogether.
And lost 4 in a row now.
But, and we should talk about them in a minute here because there's some not great stuff coming out of there. But 7-3 in their last 10 for Dallas. They're finally much healthier than they have been. So I think that's probably why they're saying, all right, let's look to supplement and add to this group versus kind of just letting it play out with what we've got.
So Keith, I hate to say I told you so on the Tim Hardaway Jr. contract, but we talked about this, and I would love it if he was just playing great and he looked like he was living up to the contract. But the danger with these guys who make a career out of being tough shot makers. And that's kind of what Tim Hardaway Jr. is. He's a guy who, in a lot of possessions for the Mavs, he'll bail them out with a super deep three when things break down on the offensive end. The problem is, for a guy like that, and we've seen this throughout NBA history, there have been a number of guys that kind of have this role, a lot of their value is tied to their shooting percentage, more so than some other players would be. So when you have a poor shooting game out of Tim Hardaway Jr., it's going to impact his overall value to the game to a higher degree than another player, than somebody who's more of, say, a playmaker or something like that. And so Tim Hardaway Jr. getting a drop in three-point percentage where he drops from 39% to 33%, that's actually a big hit to his overall value. And so that's where you wonder, how is he seen by other teams around the NBA? Do teams think, oh, well, this is just a shooting slump and he's going to shoot his way out of it, and we're going to get that guy that's hitting all these tough shots for us come playoff time? If not, that's where the Mavs can have some challenges here trying to trade for a guy like Turner or Collins specifically, because you're going to need to add that piece in to get there salary-wise. But if another team doesn't have a lot of value, doesn't value what Hardaway Jr. is doing right now, then I would think they're going to turn elsewhere. I don't see a lot of other incentive that the Mavs can add in that would make up for Hardaway Jr. having neutral or even negative value in the eyes of another team.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And they also owe a pick to the Knicks. In 2023, it's top 10 protected for 3 years, but that's just something you'd have to work around. That pick has to be a little bit further out then, because then that means the earliest they could trade one is 2025 if the Knicks pick conveyed. So that's the earliest you could put language in there that you'd send it out. And then you start to say, how many picks are we going to send out?
Yeah.
Because we want to make sure, as our team gets more expensive around Luka and whatever other guys we bring in, we need to start supplementing with young talent through the draft to fill roster in rotation spots. So, that's tough. And one thing with Dallas too, I don't know how many people have noticed they've really flipped the way they play. So in the bubble year, we've probably all forgotten, they had a historically good offense that year. They were number one in offensive rating, but it was one of the best offensive ratings of all time. And they were about middle of the pack in pace. Then next season, they started playing even slower. The offense slipped a good amount, down to 9th from first, and the defense slipped a little bit. This year, they play at a snail's pace. They're kind of a tough watch, even if, I love Luka, but they're tough to watch. They walk it up the floor, and they just grind out games. They're 6th in defense right now this year, but the offense has fallen all the way to 20th. So they went from first, historically good 2 seasons ago, to 20th this year.
What changed?
Yeah. We'll keep it positive here on a Friday, but let's say injuries have played a factor as well. But I mean, kids' system is a little weird, and it prioritizes, quite frankly, maybe some of the wrong stuff. There's a lot of, hey, let's run post-ups and work for mid-rangers instead of working for three-pointers and those kind of things. But that's just something to factor in of, why would they want John Collins? Well, they're trying to juice their offense a little bit because they're tough. Why would you want Myles Turner? Well, that gives you an inside-outside presence on the two ends of the floor. So maybe you're trying to bump it up there. But I mean, I expect them to try. I just don't know that to kind of close the book on this one, I don't know that they have the ability to beat packages from other teams for guys like Collins or Turner.
They could continue to look elsewhere on the market, and I think they're going to be aggressive, but whether or not they'll be able to actually get the deal done, we'll see. The Mavs historically have wound up being that team that kind of gets close, but not quite on a number of deals. We'll see if that continues to hold true, but we know they'll be motivated to try to make a deal. You mentioned that you had some stuff on Utah that you wanted to toss in. Why don't we get to that now?
Yeah, so, I mean, we've seen Donovan Mitchell has been kind of cranky after their last couple losses, kind of called out their effort level, their defense, their focus, their consistency. He actually said, I want to say, I think his exact wording was, we're fooling ourselves if we think we're a championship level team. So that's a little tough. But then Rudy Gobert kind of comes back and says, I watched, so this is the quote. He gave this to the Salt Lake City Tribune. I watched some of these other teams like the Suns or Warriors. Those guys are a step ahead of us in terms of winning habits. Devin Booker is playing his ass off defensively. Guys like that, they buy in and you can tell they take pride in playing defense. That's pretty tough because when you start making the player comp, it starts to say, are you taking a shot at your teammate? Donovan Mitchell, we know they've had issues before in the past. So again, I'm not saying let's break up the Jazz and maybe this is not what he meant. And I'm sure we'll get clarification at some point later in the next couple of days. But I mean, not great in Utah. And that's been a team that is just kind of plugged along and very quiet. You don't hear a whole heck of a lot. The first time we ever heard anything was the Mitchell's upset with Gobert over the coronavirus stuff and all that. And then that seemed to be pretty well swept under the rug, by the time it mattered. But yeah, it's it's at least something that's got me interested. And I don't think anything major happens with the Jazz this year, but I think if they fall short, I think you really start asking some questions going into next offseason about where are we going with the makeup and build of this team.
Absolutely. And it's something to keep an eye on. So good thing to file away and just kind of remember, and we'll see if anything else, if there's any more, breadcrumbs of dissent there within Utah, and we'll find out what happens. The Lakers, their offer for Cam Reddish, now it sounds like it was a little while ago that they kind of broached this topic, but they were offering a couple of second-round picks for Cam Reddish. Obviously, they wound up getting a protected first in the deal from the Knicks. Makes sense why the Lakers weren't able to get the deal done if a protected first was on the table compared to a couple of seconds. But that got out there, that was what they were interested in trading for Cam Reddish. Now, as far as salary matching, we can take some guesses at who would have been in there in order to try to make something like that happen. But clearly the Lakers are going to be on the market with very limited assets to try to make a move. I just wanted to mention that was their offer. Keith, I don't think that ever had a chance of being successful. A couple of second rounders, just that's not enough, but interesting that they were at least in the mix of teams. And did you see Travis Schlenk, his statement from today? That was fantastic.
Which one?
The one about Cam Reddish coming to them and asking for a trade during the offseason. It's rare that you see GMs and having supported and followed a team under the guidance of Mitch Kupchak for so many years. General managers are very, very good at saying words without actually saying anything. And Mitch Kupchak is a master of doing that. But Travis Schlenk came out here and just was very open, very forthright, very honest, and just laid it all out exactly like it is. And that was really refreshing in terms of getting his viewpoint of why they made the Cam Reddish trade that they did, and mentioning that they did canvass the league and looked at all their different options and all of that. So it was a cool thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's, to me, you leak that. Well, it's not even leaked. He said it directly, so I shouldn't even term it that way. You say that if you're Travis Schlenk, because what you're trying to show is we take care of our people, right? We take care of our guys. He wanted to be somewhere else. We made it happen. So I thought it was interesting too. He said we wanted to see if a roster tweak would help change the trajectory of our season. And he also said it also gives us opportunity to do other things over the next few weeks. So I get it, and that's not a bad thing, right? For him to come out and say, hey, this is what we're looking at there. So to go back to your original part on the Lakers part is, it's just not going to go very far because those picks probably aren't going to be very good either. That's the thing you have to factor in with the Lakers. You take the chance on a first rounder. A late second is you buy that if you want it later, right? So you're not necessarily looking to just go get a late second round pick for guys. So I think it continues to speak to, it's just going to be hard for them to make a meaningful deal. And that's just, I mean, it's at some point it just comes down to math.
Yeah, the picks that they've got, the extra second rounders that they've got, it's the 2023 second rounder from Chicago. Well, that doesn't look nearly as good now as it did last summer. And the least favorable between Washington or Memphis, again, does not look as good as it would have during the offseason. So you're right, you're not even really offering high value second round picks. The Lakers' own second round pick in 2022 goes to San Antonio. Their 2024 second round pick goes to Memphis, and their 2026 second round pick goes to Cleveland. So there's not a whole lot. There's second round picks there, but it's not like they have, oh, this one's going to be number 31. That's the pick that we've got. That's going to have more value than hey, the Chicago Bulls, who are at the top of the Eastern Conference, they're a second rounder.
Yeah, you're spot on. And I think the thing too is you start talking Lakers picks in 25, 27, 28, their own picks. Why those don't have value is, those are, I mean, likely the post LeBron years. Who the hell knows at this point? I mean, he may still be going strong and playing great then. I'm done predicting when LeBron will be done, because it's just, that has broken the normal thinking on that so much, how good he still is so late in his career, that but whatever. But why you don't put value in the Lakers seconds there is because you just can't assume they're going to be bad, because they're the Lakers. They're going to reset. If LeBron is gone, they have one thing that I realize there's a lot of frustration, and the Westbrook trade was weird and all that. But what they have done is they've set things up so that if LeBron is done at the end of this contract, or LeBron says, I'm going to go back to Cleveland to finish in full circle, whatever he does, or sign, they've kept things very clean. It's really Anthony Davis and not much else at that point. So you're really kind of in a spot where, we can get into whatever we want to get into. And it's the Lakers. They're if not the premier destination, they're second in the league. I mean, it's kind of, at this point, it's kind of become them in the Heat, or 1-1A as you look at it. And probably a lot of it depends at that point of the tiebreaker of just who's closer to winning right now. So that's why I'm not coming back and being like, hey, Hawks fans, we got the Lakers second round pick 7 years from now. Who knows what they'll be? Exactly. And it's not even a who knows what they'll be. Maybe they'll be bad again. It's probably more like, cool, so you got us a pick that's going to be in the 20s at best, if not, down in the 25 to 30 range in the second round. So also, I will say this too. Teams are continuing to move those further out seconds. That is going to start to take on a different tone, because there's a sense that in the next CBA, there could be tweaks to the draft. There could be stuff, because they're going to work on the one and dones. So we're going to start to see some stuff kind of change up there a little bit. Probably not quite this year, but in the coming years, teams will look at those picks slightly differently, because that may not be even what it looks like now. It may be better. It may be worse. We don't really know on what those will look like, but that may be why you start seeing teams throw, stop. But if you have to, you'll throw in a pick, out there to get a deal done.
Yeah, we've heard for years that at some point the NBA might move to, instead of one and done, a 2 or none rule, where you have to go to college for 2 years or no years, and maybe there's a path through the G League there that you take or whatever. But if that does change, obviously that can alter drastically the value of some of these picks as well. So that's something that teams have to factor in.
Let me just say something on that too, just real quick on the draft thing, because I get asked a lot of times, like, what do you think the draft should be? I actually do kind of like the Major League Baseball model of, if you go, I believe theirs is still 3 years that you go to college for, or you can come right out of high school. And I think that makes some sense there. I personally would like it if they could do some tweaking and adjusting, where there has to be some form of G League time spent as you transition into being a professional player. But I don't have all the answers on that one, but I do kind of like that idea. But two are done. I mean, basketball, it is a different sport than baseball. There's not the several years of minor league levels to climb through to get to the pros for the vast majority of players. So I could see 2 are done or 2 or none, and saying, you either come out or you go for 2 years. I don't have any problem with that. And I think that to some extent improves the college game as well. There now, I'll be completely honest, I don't have a whole ton of interest in improving the college game. I'd rather the best players are in the NBA when they're ready to go. But it's that is just something to kind of keep rattling around in the back of your head.
Well, from the NBA side, the most valuable thing that you can have is a good player on a rookie contract. Like a guy who's making an impact on the floor for you, a guy who's getting rotation minutes. You're more likely, if the guy stayed 2 years in college, you're more likely for that player that you have drafted to be ready to play NBA minutes after 2 years of college than after 1 year under the current system. So I think you could argue that it could improve the NBA as well.
Sure, good. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I mean, guys like Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, becoming all NBA guys while on rookie scale deals. That's it's like in the NFL, having a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal makes just building all the rest of your offense that much easier, or your team, your roster. It's the same way in the NBA, just on a smaller scale. You want to build that out. So that's a little love for Mac Jones.
I was going to say, do you have a Mac Jones jersey yet, Keith?
I don't. He's got to win a playoff game before I'm investing in a jersey.
I saw that I saw that this infographic that for certain weeks of the NFL season, he had the top selling jersey.
Yeah.
Which
doesn't surprise me.
How are you feeling about this big matchup you got coming up too?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at this point, I feel like whatever happens, it's gravy for the Patriots, because I was just hopeful to be in the mix for the playoffs. They made it to the playoffs. I'm not going to be, rookie quarterback. If you win the game, great. If you just don't get killed. That's my big thing. I just don't want to see him get destroyed, and I don't think they will. I think the game's going to line up to be. The weather is supposed to be just brutally cold. So we'll see where that. How that factors in. I mean, Mac Jones, I don't think has played in brutal cold yet.
Right.
So we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I'll be fired up, this time tomorrow. I'll probably be starting to get pretty psyched up and ready to go.
Could see the Bills' death by Damian Harris angry runs. We'll find out if that happens. But Josh Allen is pretty darn good as well. So see how that plays out. We do need to talk about the Houston Rockets. John Wall, reportedly, this is from Jake Fisher, Bleacher Report, has zero inclination of a buyout, has over $90 million, $91.7 million total remaining on his deal, not playing for the Houston Rockets. There's been a lot of thought that, okay, well, maybe they come to a buyout. After all, we thought that Blake Griffin made too much money to get bought out, and yet he did. But if John Wall is not willing to give anything back, where does this go? I don't think anybody's going to trade for him.
Nope. So, it goes nowhere. It goes to, he still sits there, and then next year, when the calendar changes over and he's an expiring contract, then maybe you can get something done, because then you can really look a few different directions, and that has value. But as long as that $47.4 million is sitting out there next year, nowhere. No one's going to trade for. I mean, it's already next to impossible in season to trade for a $44.3 million contract, unless you're moving a contract that's $35 million plus. So that's already really, really hard. And then it's that, who wants that money on the books next year? Nobody. Yeah. I mean, it's the sad reality is John Wall is not the player he was when he signed that contract. And then, the injuries have killed him, and now we're coming a year away from really playing. Like, that's, kind of tough too. I want to say if he gets, by the next time we see him play, it'll have been like twice in the last 4 seasons. Yeah. Or almost 3 seasons, like once in 4 seasons that he's really kind of played meaningful minutes. So that's just tough. I think this continues. Maybe it does go the Blake Griffin route, where we hit the trade deadline, nothing happens, and John Wall's like, I just want to play. Yeah. Like, where do we need to go? How much do I have to give back? And then that's where they start the conversation at that point.
So let me hit you with this, because I get every post-game show, particularly after the last one, right, with the Sacramento Kings, and he shot 2 for 14. I've got Lakers fans saying,
the Sacramento Kings, ice cold player.
Yes, and which they're apparently not allowed to do anymore. The NBA is not going to allow them to do that, because I don't know if it was too disrespectful or what they thought. I don't know what the rationale was, but that's what I saw being reported out of Sacramento, that they're no longer allowed to do that. But they did get a kick out of doing it to Russ.
Right, let me soapbox here just for a second.
Go.
Grow up, NBA. Good Lord. Between that and fining Kevin Durant for using profanity post-game, like, what are we doing? Like, if we want these players, is Russell Westbrook real? Russell Westbrook is been around long enough. He didn't go home and cry. No. He didn't go home and like bawl himself.
He laughed about it. It got brought up to him in the press conference afterwards, and he laughed about it.
And you know what? I don't know if they play again this year. I don't know if they still have games left. But when he goes out there and drops a 40-point triple-double on them and they destroy them, well, now you did it to yourself, right? Like, that's and then that Durant fine. If we want these guys to talk with the media and be themselves, then stop finding them for this stuff.
Yeah.
Who's watching post-game press conferences that players give that hasn't heard profanity before and is going to be super offended? Yeah, if it goes way over the line and it's, getting really,
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, come on, like, it's just, I don't know. It's just grow up, just stop telling teams to, I mean, God, this should be fun.
It's
right.
it's different if that press conference is televised live and there's no delay and you can't like if it's live and you can't bleep it, like Shaq got in trouble back in the day for swearing in a live like post game interview, but most of the time, most fans are consuming.
What 10-year-old is watching the post?
Exactly. And most people who are getting the post game information, they're getting it after the fact. A reporter is getting that information. They're putting the quote into a story. So it's not like you have to worry about the sensitive ears because that reporter is going to take that out anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
it's
all right. Anyway, I completely derailed your point.
I want to run this by you because I have so many Lakers fans saying, because I've been making the point. There's no Russell Westbrook trade. My inbox has been full of let's trade Russ to this team for these guys and that guy and that guy. Yep. And my take has been I need some way to set up an auto reply. So anytime a Westbrook trade hits my inbox, it sends back the other team says no.
Perfect.
Because I think that's the case. Yeah. But I have so many people who say, and that's and I'm talking contractually, Westbrook stands. I'm not saying I hate Russell Westbrook. He still has some value on the floor and everything, but the contract matters. And that's why I think we're at that point. If Westbrook was making $15 million, this will be a different discussion. But John Wall, I get so many Lakers fans who are saying, just get Westbrook off the team, trade him for John Wall. So forget about for a second the fact that the Houston Rockets wouldn't do that, because why would they? It's just shuffling deck chairs, right? Mm-hmm. From the Lakers side, would you do that?
No, I don't think so. Hey, as rough as the Russ fit has been, and as rough as some of his games have been, I just think he has more left. Mm-hmm. You can see it when it is going good. I just don't think John Wall has that level of play left in him. Now, would the fit maybe be slightly better because he doesn't need the ball to be as effective and those kind of things? I mean, maybe, but it's not like you're talking about, you're not acquiring prime Mark Price here, like that's just playing off ball and knocking in jump shots. I went really old with that reference. A bunch of people are like, who? I didn't want to go Steph Curry because that's just too crazy. But I mean, it's like that's my issue, is I don't know that the fit is all that much better.
Right.
That almost seems like one of those things you do fantasy wise when you're just so sick of watching a guy put up poor scoring days that you're like, yeah, I just can't do it anymore. Give me whatever for him. I'm fine taking zeros or watching somebody else. But that's not, the NBA doesn't work that way, so I mean, there's got to be other ways forward. I think if you're the Lakers, what you're trying to do today with the Russ contract is, and I'm going to use it as the contract versus him as a player.
Yes.
I think you are trying to today, knowing just how hard it is, you're trying to set the groundwork for what can we do this summer. Mm-hmm. Where can we go next summer with a team to do this? And I'm with you, man. I see the way people reply to, sometimes it's the tweet about this show, some of your other tweets, where it's like Russ for Simmons. Like, why is this not done yet? Because the 76ers don't want Russell Westbrook. Like, you don't come back with Daryl Morey traded for him once. Completely different situation. Completely different. Was trying to salvage the last year of Harden, was trying to figure out what to do there, get Chris Paul out of there when he didn't want to be there, him and Harden didn't want to play. Just completely different situation with that. This is not, he's not jumping at acquiring this version of Russell Westbrook. I've also seen a ton of people saying, well, the Thunder are looking to eat salaries, so could we get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander? No, I mean, no.
And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no. Oh my goodness, no.
Like, you gotta, that's one where it's like, and I'll put this to everybody in general, because Celtics fans do similar crazy stuff where it's like they're all mad, like, why didn't we get Cam Reddish for Romeo Langford? Because the Hawks don't want Romeo Langford. Yeah. Like, that doesn't solve anything too. That's the same kind of player type. But it's when you get ready to hit send on your fake trade, look at it from both sides.
Yes.
When I used to be a forum moderator over at Real GM, our rule on the trades board, which was basically post fake trade ideas here, and then everybody will come in and tell you why you're so dumb.
Which is actually kind of fun to read through, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But the rules of that form are you have to say why both sides would do the deal. Like you can't just say, Russ for Simmons because Simmons wants out.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Why would the Sixers do their side of that deal? So before you hit send or even post here on the comments here on YouTube, or send us emails or whatever, just consider both sides of it and really think, would the other side really do this? And if your answer is no, it's time to go back to work on the trade machine.
And we will do some live shows as we get closer to the trade deadline,
Yeah.
where we'll take trade suggestions from fans and break them down and things like that. But it is, I think it is a good rule of thumb, right? Just you have to look at both sides of things and understand with Russell Westbrook in particular, with John Wall as well, you're not talking about just the player, you're talking about the contract. And that's where even if a team says, you know what, Russ does have a little bit left in the tank, they're not going to want to take on that contract. That's the challenge.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of which, not a surprise, and this should be a quick one, but OKC is open to taking on salary. What do they want? Picks.
Yeah.
Of course.
Stunning.
They want
Huge
all the
surprise.
picks.
I can't show the meme, but the meme that I'll next time they do a trade for draft picks, look me up on Twitter and you'll see the meme will get posted. Couple other injury returns.
Yeah.
Good news here is Bam Adebayo going to be back earlier than maybe expected. Sounds like he'll be back on Monday for the Miami Heat, which that's great news. That's really awesome to see that he's coming back. Again sooner than I think most thought. There's also a what was the Michael Porter Jr.
Yes,
could be back this season, which there was a lot of thought of. He's done for the year when he went down with the back surgery, but he's already started working out. He's doing some standstill shooting and those kind of, or not standstill, but stationary shooting. He's not like running into catches and those kind of things. So yeah, I think it is really something where we really kind of look at it and say, all right, this is good news. And to add with the Nuggets, they still expect to get Jamal Murray back sometime in the next couple of weeks. So we're some good news on the injury front there with some guys coming back and guys who are really important. That Miami team, man, they keep plugging along. It's almost like no matter who plays, they just keep winning games. If they're 8-2 in their last 10, they've won three in a row, and they are now second because they have the tiebreaker over the Heat in the Eastern Conference.
Unreal.
That's super impressive stuff. Like they have really, rocketed up the standings here and, playing just really good basketball.
The Lakers and Celtics fans watching this are just getting angrier and angrier as we talk more about teams that have overcome injuries and still won games.
Yeah. Meanwhile, our teams are 21-21 each. And,
yes.
Hey, this moment in time, we'll freeze this for posterity. The Celtics have won 3 in a row to get to 21-21. Lakers have gone the other way to get to 20-21.
Yep.
That'll flip next week, I'm sure, and probably every week from here till the end of the season until they are both finish the year at a tidy 41-41 and in the play-in.
Oh boy. I should mention here, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, if they come back, the top of the West could, and I say could because there's no guarantee this is going to happen. You could be staring down a situation where Denver, the end of the season, heading into the playoffs, has everybody healthy. You could also be staring down a situation, and we heard otherwise the other day, but the Clippers, if, and again, big if here, if Paul George is able to return healthy this season, if Kawhi Leonard's able to return healthy, the top teams in the Western Conference could be staring down full-strength Denver, full-strength Clippers in round one.
Mm-hmm.
That's
tough.
That's tough. That's very tough.
And I mean, you probably don't want to go there, but potentially a Lakers team that you still don't want to play LeBron.
Oh, absolutely. And Lakers are in the mix too. If you get a healthy Anthony Davis, a healthy LeBron James, is that a team that you want to run? Yeah, I mean, there's going to be some. There's question marks here, but there could be some interesting challenges in round one of the Western Conference. The way things are setting up currently, long way to go to get there, though.
That's when if you're Phoenix, Golden State, Memphis, even Utah, maybe you're starting to root for like, hey, Portland, Sacramento, make a run here, and get into the play-in and win a game or two and get through that one, you're really starting to look, like you want that there. So it is interesting. I had somebody mention to me that if we're going to do this whole play-in thing, because of the scenario we just laid out, where there might be pretty good teams sitting there, that lends further credence to let the top seeds pick who they play in the first round.
I've always kind of liked the drama of that too.
I love it.
Like it's kind of fun because like if you're the lower seed team and the other team picks you, you're kind of getting called out, so you're going to have that extra chip on your shoulder. I think it would be really interesting. I know players don't want this though. Players don't want that.
No, yeah, no. I mean, in the reality is it starts to become an issue with prearranging stuff for TV and all the other stuff that goes into it. But it is, I've always thought that would be kind of cool, just because you imagine somebody, in a game 7, they're like, they go for 40 points, and the whole time they're telling the other team, you wanted us, you wanted me, here we are. So, I always just go back to that game when LeBron was on the Heat, where it looked like the Celtics, that last kind of run they made, looked like they were going to take the Heat out, and LeBron had that monster game in Boston, where he never cracked a sweat, and his facial expression didn't change from warm-ups all the way through. Just hit jumper after jumper, just tore the hearts out of them, and then they knocked Boston out in a game 7. And it's just, I really do. I think that would just add a whole other layer of fun to this, because we'll see. But I will always say, we saw this backfire on teams in the past. Start messing around with seeding and doing seeding shenanigans in that last week. The basketball gods don't like it.
No, they don't.
They punish you harshly when you don't do your best down the stretch with that kind of stuff. So,
absolutely. All right, let's wrap things up there. Appreciate everybody joining us. Again, we're so appreciative of all the support that we've gotten here, the NBA Front Office YouTube channel, as well as over on the podcast, if you're watching on or listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever. We appreciate all of you. If you haven't done so yet, please do subscribe over on the NBA Front Office YouTube channel and make sure you turn on notifications. With that, have a great week. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just want to say, because you're about to say have a great weekend. We won't talk to anybody before. Martin Luther King Day has become one of the best days on the NBA calendar. It's like Christmas times 2, right? Because instead of just 5 games, I think we have 13 games. They start as early as Celtics.
I was going to say, your Celtics kick it off.
Yeah, 12:30, all the way straight through the end of the night. Jazz Lakers at 10:30, and there's games on TNT. There's games all over the place all day long. So 12:30 Eastern all the way until a 10:30 p.m. Eastern tip. So one of the best days of basketball of the year, because you just get games all day long. They really did a good job with the windows this year. A lot of staggered tip times and the like. So really, we won't talk to you guys before then, likely. So you'll really make sure you enjoy that on Monday.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. See ya and stay safe.